Hello, and welcome back to the Plot Mom channel. I feel like I was just here talking about Audiblegate, and it's been a couple weeks, and it's just getting wackier and bigger and more ridiculous. So I'm here to give you an update. I'm going to try to keep doing these updates as long as Audiblegate continues, because, wow, folks, it's wild. So first, a small recap for anyone who wasn't here from the beginning. Audiblegate is a movement, or the hashtag for a movement of authors and narrators asking for fair treatment from Audible, which is a company owned by Amazon, in its exchange and return policy specifically, but also generally in its dealings with us little independent authors. We noticed a problem back about a month or two ago where our total net income was starting to diminish pretty rapidly, and we noticed that they were starting to advertise endless and easy, no question asked returns on all its platforms, like a perk of the service, when that wasn't what they had agreed upon. It was discovered. We decided to do something about it, so we started writing to Audible. And our demands were fairly simple. One, to have an updated and fair return policy so that a customer could not use one of their credits to buy a book, return it, buy the next book in the series, return it, buy the next book in the series, because that gave no money to any of the producers who were paying for the books to be created to begin with. Not great. The second thing we asked for was transparent data. We only had our net, which means our sales minus our returns, what came to us. We don't know how many returns there are. We don't know how they contrast to sales. We don't know if they're being returned fully listened or not listened to at all. Also, customers have 365 days to make those returns. So, people were being, royalties were being, taken back for books that might have been sold 6 months earlier. But we didn't know because we didn't have any data. And finally, to not promote their service like a lending library because it was a breach of contract, we agreed for them to sell our books, not to lend our books. In the weeks since we started sending these emails, a lot of big names have joined the fight, specifically the Authors Guild, the Alliance for Independent Authors, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, the Romance Writers of America, and many more. A petition was started about a week or so ago, and it's already, actually I think just last weekend, and it already has over 10,000 signatures. So clearly this is a widespread problem that people care quite deeply about, because it is blatantly unfair to pretty much everyone who works in the production of audiobooks, be those the writers or the narrators. Now, throughout all of this, Audible has been quite quiet. They did about a month ago offer 5% extra royalties for the month of December to try to make up for this. Well, anyone who can do math knows that 5% of no income is nothing. So when books were returned, it was 5% of nothing, and returns were happening more and more and more and more. So obviously, we didn't let that fly. Today, and this is what prompted this video, they sent out another email. And it boils down to Audible doesn't want to change their exchange policy for the customer. They want to allow endless exchanges. So what they're going to do is they will pay royalties if a book is exchanged more than 7 days following purchase. On the surface, this looks promising. They've accepted that it's ridiculous that audiobooks are exchanged and returned, and we, lose out money that was deposited in our accounts months ago. And they're going to cover the cost of returns past 7 days. On the surface, that sounds like a win. But what it's not is actually listening to our demands The primary of which is we want the data. They have not even mentioned the fact that they have not given the audit data that we have been requesting to a single author that I know of. Everyone has been asking for their sales data. They keep saying, we'll get it for you, it's in the works, because we do have the right to audit our work for the last 3 months. No one has gotten that data, and they haven't made any move to make that data more available. We don't know if 7 days return is actually going to help, because we don't know when books are being returned. Are customers buying them, listening to them over a couple days, returning them? Or are they buying them, listening to them, deciding they don't like them, and returning it 3 months later? We have no way of knowing because we can't see the data. And that has been the problem from the very beginning. That is the core issue in this whole fight, is that they are not transparent and that they keep promoting these programs which screw us over without giving us the tools to see how much it's screwing us over. So today feels bittersweet. They have given us something and we have no idea if it's a present or a fuck you. There's just nothing. We don't have the data. So if you are in this fight, if you are just entering into this fight, if you don't know what you can do in the face of all of this, know that it's not over. All those organizations that are backing this movement to try to get transparency and fair dealing for rights holders and narrators is still ongoing. And specifically, if you are feeling powerless and you feel like you need to do something about it, please do. If you are a narrator or rights holder, we are being asked to not accept bearing the cost for the initial 7 days of returns, since there's no guarantee that this will have any effect on returns. And it has not guaranteed that their promise that returns are rare is true. We don't know. 2, we are to ask them to stop encouraging returns by advertising returns and exchanges in an easy process with no questions asked. This is a major problem which makes customers complicit in what is essentially theft without them necessarily even knowing that they are. It's unfair in every regard. 3, ask that returns should be limited to only if a book has been read for a certain amount. That amount is, in the end, up for discussion. Some say 20, some say 30, some say even 50. But essentially, if you've listened to a book all the way through, don't return it. Another, please ask that returns be capped at 7 days, not 365 days, no matter who pays. 5, if that we still require our return data, and to please ask for it. If you are, again, a narrator or a rights holder, please continue to ask for your returns data and do not stop until you get the return data. Not only for the 3 months, but for every audiobook since the date of publication. They definitely have that data. They know how many books they sell. And finally, we are requesting that the dashboard be updated to show different columns for each type of sale, because there are multiple types of sales and multiple price points. And right now, we don't know anything about how our books are sold. So those are the big requests. Now, what if you are a consumer of audiobooks? You don't make them, but you want to support the authors who do. Well, write to Audible, write and say, this is unacceptable. We, as consumers, do not support this policy of endless exchanges if it hurts the authors. We want more books, and authors aren't going to pay the money to produce more books if they aren't going to make any money on it, because Amazon is screwing us over. From the audience, as someone who works in IT, can confirm that they know what their sales are. And that's the sticking point. If they were being transparent with us, if they gave us our data and said, look, here you can see that most returns do not happen within the 7-day period, and therefore what we did today is an act of good faith to help correct a problem while still being able to promote this ability to try out new books to our customers, then could just say, okay, thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you for doing business. You're a great ally to authorship. But they're not. And until they release that data to us, we cannot know. We cannot do anything but keep fighting for our rights because we do not know how egregiously they are being trampled on. This has not been a small battle. This is not something that a couple indie authors are fighting. As I said before, we have an amazing lineup of organizations that are right there with us. So if you still want to help in any way, please consider joining one of these amazing organizations. If you are an independent author, the Alliance for Independent Authors have a ton of great resources, including, Legal Help Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America is an amazing resource. These groups are fighting actively to help us, and what we can do is support them and tell them how amazing they are and how much we appreciate what they are doing. Also, there is a Facebook group. It's called Fair Deal and for rights holders and narrators. If you want to join the fight, and if you are trying to connect with other authors and narrators, that's where we're talking. That's where we're sharing all the information. We're coordinating. We're sending out letters. We are signing petitions. Please, please, please help spread this around. The faster and further it spreads, the more people become aware of this, the less Amazon and Audible will be able to keep doing this. All we are asking for, Amazon, Audible, if you are listening, all we are asking for is transparency, is to be treated like you would treat any professional you work with in any other business, to have our sales data in front of us, to be able to actually know what our contracts mean because we can see the ramifications of them, to not change policies and try to pull the wool over our eyes by keeping us in the dark. I was on a panel just the other day, and the final question was, would you return to Amazon and Audible? Would you produce more books if they fix it? And the answer is yes. It's a fantastic platform. ACX connects authors and narrators in a way that, Findaway Voices does too, but it provides this royalty share that is wonderful. But as long as there are, meager royalty splits, these exclusivity contracts for 7+ years, and this egregious lack of transparency, we can't trust you to be what you say you are, which is a friend to authors. So again, thank you for watching. I will keep making these updates as we learn more. I expect that we'll probably be here for several months, if not years, fighting this battle, but I know that we're going to stay strong. Thank you all for spreading the word, for helping get it out there, for all your letters that you're writing, and the friends that you're talking to, and the customers you're connecting to. Have a wonderful evening. Please consider liking and sharing this video. Again, we want this to go as far as we can. Have a good night.